Welcome back, everybody. It's been a few days. I was in Chicago getting meeting some people in the fantasy industry. I had a great time. I ended up going to Miller Park, seeing a baseball game there. I saw Archer Sale, so a lot of great pitching. And unfortunately, that's not what we have today. It's a 10-game slate. There's two 5-game slates. There's one early slate starting at 12:35 Eastern Time, and the late slate, of course, every day starts at 7:05. There's 5 games in each slate, and I want to get into it today because it's a really bad day for pitching. It's not something I like to say, but sometimes it happens like that with the way the schedules are and the off days. Sometimes it's just a bad day for pitching, and today is definitely one of those days. Now, of course, in the early slate, there are some good pitchers, and I will be playing more in the early slate than the late slate, and you'll find out why in just a few moments. The early slate presents Zach Greinke against the Phillies, obviously, which is a top play. Greinke's been one of the best pitchers in baseball, probably the best righty in baseball in terms of consistency, ERA, and whip. But against the Phillies, who haven't been striking out too much, he still presents a top option because of the lack of the other options on the rest of the slate. The next guy is Michael Wacha against the Reds. Now, Wacha has faced the Reds a few times this year, obviously with them being a division foe, but he's an excellent guy for cash games as well. And one of the things we've talked about is the fact that Wacha's been one of those guys that's very consistent. Almost every start, he puts up 5, 6, 7 innings, doesn't have many strikeouts until of late, which is funny to look at because although he's been allowing a little bit more runs, usually he's a 1 or 2 earned run guy per start. He's been allowing 3, sometimes 4. His strikeouts have been up, and I think that makes for a decent play today, simply because on a short slate, most people will be playing tournament only. I know personally myself I'll be doing that just because in a small slate, the variance for cash is too high. But a guy like Wacha, whose strikeouts have been up, it's actually a decent play. So of those two guys, Greinke and Wacha, I would prefer Greinke, but those two will be very highly owned on 2-pitcher sites. And the third guy I want to talk about for the early slate was Joe Ross against the Diamondbacks. He's only a tournament option only for me, and just as a low-owned guy and a guy that would like to kind of be a little bit lesser owned because most people will be having Greinke and Wacha. Ross has been awesome this year. Every single start, he has 3 earned runs or less. He has a lot of strikeouts, and he's an exciting young pitcher to watch. But he hasn't faced an offense like the Diamondbacks, who we will face today. So you see there's a lot of firepower from the Diamondbacks offense. Yesterday, they had 11 runs scored. Wellington Castillo hit a home run. Obviously, they have Goldschmidt, Pollock. They have some left-handed bats that are successful as well, like Ender Ciarte and David Peralta. So Joe Ross hasn't faced an offense like that, but I still like him in a short slate today as a tournament and kind of a contrarian play. Now, that brings us to the late slate, and this is really an abomination for pitching. I mean, the top guy listed is Jason Hamill for price, but I don't like him at all. He faces that Giants offense. This has been incredible. They have guys that are hitting the ball all over the place. The top of that order, the middle of that order, and even the bottom of that order is hitting the ball. So I can't go with a guy like Hamill in a tough matchup. And really the only guy that I really like in that late slate is Chris Heston against the Cubs. Now, his price is absurd, but for a guy today that really is the only top option to go with, I think you almost have to have him if you're playing in that late slate. The Cubs have one of the highest strikeout rates in the league. They haven't been hitting the ball well at all of late, which is funny to say because earlier in the year they weren't hitting the ball well. But the fact is, in the last month or two, they have one of the lowest, if not the lowest, batting average in baseball against left-handed and right-handed pitching. Now, they strike out more against righties, and that's exactly what Heston's specialty is, with a really good right-handed slider. You saw him use it when he pitched earlier, and he threw a couple gems. I believe he had no hitter earlier this year. So he has the ability, and although his price is high, I think you have to have him because everybody else will. And if you want to go contrarian and stay away from him, problem is there's not many other pitchers to go with. If you're playing on 2-pitcher or 3-pitcher sites, the only other guy I really like is Matt Whistler. And I'm not a big fan of his, but he has one of the top matchups against the Marlins, who really are struggling to hit the ball anywhere. So for guys in the late slate, I really like Heston. I think that a 1-pitcher site would be best to play on at some point in the late slate. But that being said, everybody's going to have Heston, so it's just going to be a battle of hitters. So it might be more fun to play on 2-pitcher sites than 3-pitcher sites tonight because there's all the variance in pitching. I like Heston and Whistler. And the other guy I would go on, maybe take a flyer on Eduardo Rodriguez for the Red Sox. But on these 3-pitcher sites, which I will be playing earlier for the early slate today, I'll probably be using Wacha, Greinke, and Joe Ross and trying to find some value bets. That 3-pitcher site is Fantasy Feud. And we've talked about that before. A lot of people in the RotoCurve community starting to play over there. It's a lot of fun, and you guys know I love pitching. So 3 pitchers is a great thing to do. So be sure if you haven't signed up over there, they have a nice $100 deposit bonus if you use the promo code FEUD, or referral code FEUD rather. And always, you can use on RotoCurve, and it's a cool thing because at every new account that signs up, you get $25 for free from RotoCurve to play. And it's really cool to talk about because if you can deposit $50 or more, say you deposit $50 and RotoCurve gives you $25, that's $75 right there plus that deposit bonus. You can be playing on house money for a little while. The more you win, the more you can grow that bankroll, play some more. So be sure to check it out. I'll be playing a lot more over there as well. I'll be definitely playing this early slate with 3 pitchers over there because anybody that stays away from those top 3 I mentioned, I don't think they're going to have a chance to cash. So that being said, today's not a great day for pitching, but with 2 separate slates, it's going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of different hitters to target with those guys. And as always, be sure to check out RotoCurve's lineups page when those lineups start to come out. Actually, a few are coming out right now as I make this this segment. But look at the early slate, look at the late slate. I'll be playing more on the early slate, especially with those 3 pitchers that I like. But take a look at that. And as always, Danielle will have her weather report later in today. There's only 5 games, so hopefully there isn't much of a weather issue, but it's always something to look at. So that being said, that brings us to the end of our pitching segment. Good luck today and tonight for those playing both slates. And as always, let's win some money on Tuesday.